everyone, these are Easter egg piñata cookies, and I've been asked many times by viewers to make piñata cookies. Now these aren't those cute little colorful burro or donkey cookies that you've probably seen before, but I thought I'd give it a try with something just a bit simpler with these Easter egg shapes. The cookies in this video are made using the same recipe as the colorful corn cookies. It's a very simple non-spreading sugar cookie recipe that works great for cutouts. To make it, you'll need 1/2 cup of butter in a large bowl. My butter was a bit too cold. It should be at room temperature. I microwaved it for a few seconds and it melted a little bit. This happens to you, not a big deal. Just keep going, it'll be fine. To the 1/2 cup of butter, you are going to add 1 cup of white granulated sugar. And then you're going to use an electric mixer, or you can do this by hand. Just beat the butter and the sugar together until it is light and fluffy. Now we're going to add 1 egg. Blend that together. And then add a teaspoon of vanilla. I've just added 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. Now I don't show this often, but it's always a good idea to scrape down the sides of the bowl as you beat the ingredients together, just to make sure you're not missing any little bits of ingredients. Now you're going to add 2 cups of flour, a little bit at a time. I do it in 2 additions, and continue to beat it together. If your mixer isn't strong enough to mix that stiff cookie dough, you can use a wooden spoon. Once it's mixed, bring the dough together into a dough ball. If your cookie dough is too crumbly to bring together, chances are your butter was not soft enough. You may have to add a little bit of water if that happens, but if your butter's nice and soft, it shouldn't be a problem. Cut your dough ball in half, take 1/2, form it into a ball, put it on a piece of parchment paper and flatten it out a little bit. And what I do, I just fold the paper over and I roll it out using a rolling pin. You need to roll it out to about 1/4 inch thickness. Now what's great about using these layers of parchment paper or wax paper is that you don't need to add flour to keep it from sticking to your rolling pin, and the cookies will be more tender that way. So once it's all rolled out, you need to cut it out into egg shapes. To make these cookies, of course, you will need an egg-shaped cookie cutter. Now the one I had was way too small. I wanted bigger cookies, but I didn't have a larger egg-shaped cookie cutter, so I decided to make my own. And making your own cookie cutters is actually pretty easy to do. You're going to need some thick aluminum foil. You can use a roasting pan, one of those disposable aluminum roasting pans. I'm using a drip tray that goes in the bottom of your oven. And what I do is I'm marking off 3 lines that are 1 inch apart, and I'm using a butter knife just to score the aluminum foil to make the lines. So you can see there, I marked off 3 lines, 1 inch apart approximately, and then you cut that out, and then I cut off the ends of the drip tray that kind of tilt upwards. And then you're going to take both edges, top and bottom of that long strip, and fold them to the center. And you will end up with a strip of aluminum that's about 1 inch wide. And I took a ruler and just smoothed it out so that the edges were nice and crisp. And then you're going to just fold it around until you get the rough size that you need. And then I staple it with just regular stapler and cut off the excess piece. And then I bend it into the egg shape that I need. This egg shape is just a little bit bigger than that purple plastic. For each cookie, you're going to have to cut out 2 large shapes, and you'll be cutting out 1 large shape that you're going to be cutting a hole in the center of it. I'm using the smaller egg-shaped cookie cutter to cut the hole in the center, but you could use any cookie cutter you want. You could use a circle or a square as long as it fits in to that large egg shape. And then put this whole thing on a cookie sheet and put it in the refrigerator and let it chill for about 30 minutes. Once the dough is very well chilled, it will stiffen up a little bit, and it'll make it very easy to transfer those shapes onto a cookie sheet. The cookie sheet should be lined with a silicone mat, parchment paper, or it should be greased. You could also use a spatula to transfer those cookies onto your cookie sheet. But chilling the dough makes a world of difference when you try to transfer these delicate shapes from one place to another. Then bake it at 350 degrees for about 9 or 10 minutes until the edges are light golden brown, and then you're going to let them cool completely. Now I decided to decorate these cookies with a cookie glaze. And to make this, you need 1 cup of powdered sugar, also known as confectioner's sugar or icing sugar, 2 teaspoons of milk. Some flavoring, I'm using a 1/4 teaspoon of almond extract and 2 teaspoons of light colored corn syrup. If you can't find corn syrup, you don't really need to use it. It just really helps make the glaze nice and shiny. Stir it together and chances are it'll be too thick. So in that case, add a little bit of milk or water and continue to stir until you get something that is the right consistency for glazing. So it has to be thick, but it has to be able to flow as well. I separated into some different bowls and I added a little bit of food coloring just to tint it Easter colors. I did a pink, I did a lime green, and I did a blue. Place the cookies on a rack over top of, say, a cookie sheet. Add a little bit of the glaze on top of the cookie. I actually put way too much on that one. You can get away with a lot less than that. And just spread it around and let the glaze flow over the cookie. And I wanted to let it go so it covered the sides of the cookie as well. So you just kind of coax it and it'll go over the edges of the cookie and it'll drip off. So after you've covered the cookies with the glaze, just let the cookies sit, and after several hours, depending on how humid it is where you live, that glaze will dry, it'll harden, and it'll still be kind of glossy and shiny on the top. Once the cookie's completely dry, you can also knock off or just scrape off any excess glaze that's kind of gone underneath the cookie, but you're not going to see the bottom of this cookie because it's going to be covering another cookie. So if the bottom's a little messy, that's not the end of the world. So once the cookies are dry, you just decorate them just like you want. I'm using just some white buttercream frosting here and doing a very simple design on these Easter egg cookies, but you can get as elaborate as you want using different colors. You could use candies to decorate these as well. And what I recommend you do a Google image search for Easter egg cookies and you will get an amazing variety of decorating ideas how to make these really nice. And for this last one, I just did a little swirly, little squiggly line design with some dots. Now to assemble it, you take a plain cookie, turn it over so that the nice side is down, add some frosting along the edge, place your cookie that has the hole cut out in the center. On top of that one, add some candies in the center. I'm using chocolate covered candy coated sunflower seeds here. You need small candies because they have to be small to fit into that little space. Add more frosting along the edge and then add the decorated top cookie. Press down gently and then just let them sit until the icing is dried and you have a completed piñata cookie. These are miniature M&Ms I used on that one. And that's all there is to it. This particular sugar cookie recipe makes enough for approximately 6 or 7 of these large piñata cookies. And I moved them around a little bit too soon after I made them and I smudged the icing quite a bit when I was taking photos of them. Make sure the frosting is completely dry before you move them around. The actual cookie is just a plain sugar cookie. It's crunchy and the addition of the sugar glaze on the top gives them a little extra crunch and also a little bit more sweetness. Now what's surprising about these cookies is something you can't see on a photograph, and I'll show you what I mean. They make a little rattling sound. So if you give these cookies to someone, have them give them a shake and they're going to really wonder what's inside. So that's pretty cool. Now I mentioned before, one of the limitations I found with this is the fact that you can only use very tiny little candies because the space inside is really small. Now one thing you could do if you wanted to use larger candies inside is to use 2 of those cookies that have the hole in the middle in the center. So 1 large cookie in the bottom, 2 of the cookies with the holes in the center, and then a whole cookie on the top. And that'll make the space inside the cookie a lot larger and you'll be able to fit larger candies in there. The problem with this is that you get a very thick cookie. I mean, that's a really big cookie. Now, if some of you missed my last video, it was a really cute Easter bunny cupcake. So all you have to do is click on the bunny to see the last video or look in the description box and there will be a link to the video as well. Thanks for watching.